Feeling thirsty for knowledge? Hackers on the Rocks is the podcast that mixes refreshing conversation with potent cybersecurity insights. Serving up these insights with a twist, we pair a different software vulnerability with a refreshing cocktail recipe each episode. Hello, world, and greetings all around. I am really pumped for today's episode. It 100% embodies the famous William Gibson quote, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed." There's also a really powerful call to action where you can get involved. So stay with us till the end. You're definitely not going to want to miss this one. Saif, Salman, gentlemen, welcome to Hackers on the Rocks.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, let's dive right in, because I was able to catch your talk at the recent Black Hat MEA conference, and your talk was about SNR and acoustic proximity detection. That's today's theme. Can one of you give us maybe a technical primer of what all that means?
Yeah, so mainly, let me give you background about the whole research and the basics we built upon the foundation of the research. We started reading about the channel state information, which is a new technology that's being added into routers and Wi-Fi as a whole. So mainly, this enables us to have more parameters to look at in terms of the traffic or the signals being sent within the Wi-Fi spectrum or the radio spectrum mainly. However, this is not supported in most areas and still under development and is not integrated with modern Wi-Fi routers. So the closest thing that we could think of to use for malware or for our research is SNR, signal to noise ratio. So mainly it consists of two main components, the signal strength and the noise level. Mainly, the closer to zero the signal strength, the better, which means that there's less noise causing signal interruption. And the further the noise from zero, the better, giving us a better SNR final value. So mainly we used that as our sensor instead of the CSI, which is the channel state information, in order to grab the information of human proximity and add that into malware development.
Right, so there's a lot there. Let's kind of unpack these one at a time. So you are able to do some kind of mathematical calculations on some kind of device that's emitting Wi-Fi, right? So that's probably any router or any laptop device or any kind of client device. And looking at data that those radio cards produce, you can mathematically, through signal to noise ratio calculation, determine if there's interference, if there's something blocking the signal or producing some kind of distortion. Is that like the first part of this?
Yes, let me make this more clear in terms of how this is all being calculated. So let's say that you have a router in a home, as anyone living in a normal house playing any game. So there are many factors that can cause noise for that signal. One of these factors are the presence of humans. The more humans around an endpoint, the more noise caused. This is because our bodies contains 70% water with salt and other stuff that can absorb or maybe affect the signal being transmitted in the Wi-Fi spectrum. So mainly, this is the foundation of our understanding of the whole problem that we built upon the further steps of the research. So mainly humans are a source of noise that we used in order to start adding them as a factor in the noise level of the SNR equation, which is the signal strength minus the noise level.
Got it. All right. So yes, as a podcast guest who blathers into a microphone all day, humans are definitely a source of noise. I got you. But for a different reason, right? You're saying it's because we're mostly water. We as humans, we drink a lot. And so when you have more humans now, the math changes. So based on that math change, if I'm understanding you correctly, you have technology and research into this where you can analyze signal to noise ratios and determine, is there a human, one or more humans present in the vicinity? Is that generally what's happening?
Exactly. That's what's happening in real time. Mainly, we tried that, me and Saif and other colleagues. It was like the more you add people around an endpoint, the more noise is caused. And this gave us just a brief understanding for us to know that there is something affecting the noise caused by humans. We can determine that with real-time precision So we used AI to boost that accuracy or relevance of the output.
Awesome. All right. Well, then you all have just given me, I think, a pretty good reminder that as hackers on the rocks, we need a drink. So we've got to put some liquid in the body to make sure that the
Yes,
wireless
sir.
malware can catch us. So Safe, what are we drinking today, buddy?
Today we're drinking straight boom boom energy combined with a little bit of vodka and iced peach tea in a best dad ever mug.
Fair enough. Salman, what are you drinking today, buddy?
Yeah, I think I'm drinking the only booster for us here in the region. It's Turkish coffee, which is a really famous drink here. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so I went out. There's a Mideastern grocery store not too far from where I live, and this is what the shopkeep had recommended us, and I have mine here. Now, when we all first met, this was in Riyadh, where Black Hat MEA was being held, and I noticed. Actually, I just blogged about this on the Desired Effect webpage that unlike American booths, which are like take your T-shirt and get out, the booths that were at Black Hat were very like, no, come in. We've got full coffee service, like literal white glove service. Coffee coming out of like silver carafes and everything.
Yeah, of course. Hospitality is the Middle East. Sorry for cutting you off. I apologize.
No,
But
please.
hospitality is one of our traits that we have in the Middle East that we tend to really pride ourselves in. So there was a saying, I don't even remember what it was, but if you ever meet a stranger, don't be shy to close the door, right? If you are a foreigner and you come to the Middle East and you're talking to a local, they will ask you for coffee, tea, lunch, dinner. Hell, they may even invite you to their home and have you sleep over for free because we want you to enjoy your time. We want you to have fun. We want you to have a good experience. And this carries over in other forms of life. Human connection is something we care about. And funny enough, human connection is what we use to detect people using the malware.
Slick. Let me ask real quick before, I guess two questions. The first question is Saudi coffee the same thing as Turkish coffee? Because I know this episode, the drink is Turkish coffee.
Very different.
Are all coffees the same or are they're
They
different?
are different. Yeah. Sometimes it's how it's brewed. Sometimes it's the beans that are used. And sometimes it's even how it's boiled. How long is it boiling for? Many a times my mom puts the Turkish coffee on the stove and she only takes it off when it's foaming, boiling, about to spill over, as with most other parents.
I'll give you here a cheat that you can use just to spot out the Turkish coffee. The Turkish coffee is almost close to yellow. It's yellowish color, but Turkish coffee is mostly black. So yeah, you can use that for distinguishing between these two.
Fair enough. Always a question we try and ask is there a particular like a toast or a cheers, like a one or two a word phrase before people drink coffee, or is it just let's go, we got coffee time?
Depends on the occasion and the event. I think coffee is, for example, in Eid, which is something we celebrate, we say كل عام وانتم بخير, which is like giving someone that, hoping someone that they their year will be full of maybe happiness and good things. So yeah, we always mix coffee with like hoping someone to get something good.
Yeah, you say that one more time for me. Kulam.
كل عام
كل عام
Kulam.
وأنتم.
Oh man.
وأنتم. Yeah, you're there. بخير.
One more time.
بخير is a vowel.
Bichaya.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you take a sip.
All right. Indeed. All right. We are hydrated. I'm standing in front of some wireless technology. I'm caffeinated, right? My brain is now ready to expand.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask, I guess, real quick before we kind of get into like how these things can be applied. Does your technology, your research work with like any old commodity hardware, or like will any wireless card work for purposes of like human identification?
So mainly we made use of the SNR because we can get that out of any single device in the market, including any old hardware or modern hardware. And we focused on that just to include the industrial control systems, which is something we will be tackling in a couple of minutes. But we use the SNR because it can be applied for all wireless devices.
Got it. Okay. So, all right. So now I'm scared, right? Because I've got wireless. Every device in my house is wireless. My television's wireless, right? So if you have the right malware to control the wireless or to grab the data that the card's already collecting, there's no camera, there's no microphone in my TV that I'm aware of, but you're saying that you could tell if I'm like sitting ready to watch. Is that a fair statement?
So just let me make it clear for the viewers. I think most of the viewers know Bloodhound. In Bloodhound, you map the network in an AD environment. You map just roles for people. This sort of new addition to the malware will map people within the working environment. So instead of mapping them only on the network level, you are mapping them also now on a physical level.
We're also in talks. This is an opportunity I like to take where you will further see the viewer in this talk. We had very big dreams in this project. We were able to detect people, and we are in the future, if we get more support, in hopes of being able to draw out a map of where the people are going to be using heat maps, using AI for this sort of technology, using grids to be able to, using these SNR technology to predict, okay, from 12 to 1 p.m., he likes to take a cheeky break. So I'll have it drop a keylogger at that point of time.
Or a ransomware.
Also that.
Got it. All right. So let's talk about use case in a moment. Real quick, maybe just final background question then. The granularity, like are you able to, with your technology, determine who the person is, or just that there is a person like at that keyboard?
So we have not got our hands into huge environments yet. So I can't answer this question exactly, but with AI, I'm pretty sure we can get very, very, very detailed answers that might help us discover maybe to an error, for example, 50% error with 50%. Just for example, this might be safe for someone else, but we will have like two people that we can choose from mainly.
I like that. I mean, look, I also just not even in a security context. I know we're going to talk about malware and command and control and everything, but just as a parent, right? It's one thing to know, okay, like it's bedtime, the TV's supposed to be off, the TV's on, which kid am I going to yell at? And it's another thing to be like, my TV is ratting out which kid or kids are sitting on the couch watching TV when they're not supposed to be. And I think if you guys can get that technology out to that, I mean, my mind is already kind of just glowing with ideas on like use case. But I guess let's talk security side. So you guys have already kind of mentioned pattern of life. Saif, you mentioned just a moment ago of like when someone is present, that might trigger a piece of malware to do something, right? Like deploy a keylogger when someone's present, but yank it when there's no one present. What other things does somebody that has access to this technology get afforded?
Can you repeat the last part of the question again? I missed it.
Yeah. So if I'm an attacker and I have like your technology here or pieces of it or derivatives of it, where I can determine, again, not necessarily who a person is, but that yes, there's a person here, and I'm building out again pattern of life, like you said. This person is always here from 11 to noon.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Right? Like, so what does an attacker do with that kind of information?
So what an attacker can do is usually in red team operations, in a real life scenario, red team operations are very long haul. You play a lot on the long term to a point where some teams even use 2C2s, one of them for the long term, one of them for the short term. This project is more so supposed to be on the long term. So what does this mean? This means when they drop their initial beacon, their initial malware for just reconnaissance, understanding the playground that they're in, they're able to collect not just virtual data, but physical human patterns. What does this look like? Let's say I infected the intern's PC. I can see his emails. I can see he has a meeting on Tuesday at 9 a.m. And I want to check that he's actually present. I simply make sure that the SNR technology detection works in that hour to see if he left or not. And now I can do multiple things with this. I could see if he's actually sitting on his PC. And regardless of the context that we have in the past or whatever information we may have, if we are able to collect a large sum of data, we can have, as you said, a pattern of life. We can understand the human routine. So let's say we know that you on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays take a 2-hour break that's you're not allowed to have. So there are multiple things we can do here. One, we can drop a second stage beacon. Number one. Number two, we can drop a keylogger. Number three, we could even send a phishing email that is exactly timed at that break of yours to incite an emotional response to get you stressed, because this email could be your boss. It looks like your boss's email. It sounds like your boss. So it might as well be your boss at this point. So you better go rush in, quick download the PDF. And there's the second stage. You can even be cheeky and drop a Windows lock. When you log out of your Windows and you say enter password, you could put a smart lock on, and that's more passwords, more initial access, more footholds to place yourself in.
Yeah, I like that, and I think that's something that I feel like when you guys gave your presentation at Black Hat came across very clearly of being able to time your reactions. Like certain pop-ups on a screen are going to be more impactful when somebody is just getting logged in or is trying to log off at the end of the day, or they're on their break time or what have you, or having some red team flexibility to operate when there's no one at the screen, right? I think that you
Yeah,
can be,
of course.
you can maybe change up your operational posture a little bit.
And let me add something to that. Yeah, maybe we are now just trying to put the psychological factor into the whole game. In the previously, we just attack networks. Now we attack human psychologies, which is the most vulnerable part in the whole kill chain, the new kill chain we invented. So that's the point I wanted to add.
And to make things into better perspective, this technology and that we're going to publish is not something exclusive to, let's say, the technology that we implemented, which is a BOF. It is a beacon object file. For those who don't know what it is, it's just a object file that is a very small executable you can run in memory to be stealthy, right? This isn't exclusive to that program. You can implement it in a normal C program in C# as long as you understand the methodology of how you're going to do what you want to do, which is collecting this data. And the entire idea behind this is rather than having malware be patient and scheduled, you want malware to be reactive. So rather than having malware be work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we want malware to be wait until John leaves his desk and then drop the ransomware and hope that it just encrypts everything in time.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a much difference, a greater difference between like you said, like malware that's going to beacon based off of a calendar schedule versus activities that are going to happen deliberately when someone is either present or explicitly not present. Maybe we can change a little bit to how that would work in like an enterprise IT environment. I'd imagine, because you mentioned like long-term red team operations, like how might this be used in an enterprise setting where you have lots of assets, lots of wireless cards, lots of employees?
So when it comes to a enterprise environment, it becomes a lot harder because that means that we have a lot more noise that we have to siphon and filter out. It means that there's also a lot more targets. There's a lot more things we can do. So, and especially in enterprise environments, the base of the noise is so high that when something changes, we can tell. The same way how when the base of a normal small time company is so low, all of a sudden it's high. Someone's sitting there, or in the case of the enterprise environment, someone left. So this allows us to understand, let's say I want my partner to jump from intern PC to employee one. We want to wait till both are not on their computers, or maybe instead of sending a phishing email, we want to schedule a fake meeting between the two people. And we can say, hey guys, meeting, I'm your boss, 100%, go at this location at this time, and we can use the malware to see have they actually left. And this has a lot of psychological uses to it. It really does.
One thing that often comes up in conversations like this is the use of really any kind of clever technology to facilitate air gap jumping. Do you feel like there's an aspect here where using your knowledge and access to one network and the ability to scan the physical environment and again the humans that may be occupying it, like how might this kind of pertain into that?
So when engaging with air gap networks and how it might pertain to that is again dependent, as I like to say, on the context. Everything about regarding red teaming depends on the context of the environment, right? If the environment is air gapped, completely perfect, completely patched, then there's really nothing more you can do. But with the additional context that you have a tool called SNR, then in terms of technology, there's nothing to exploit. But in terms of humans, there still is. Because no matter how much you update, no matter how much you patch, no matter how much you do, the human factor is still always the weakest factor. And there are so many scenarios that can be played out. One of the scenarios that I used as an example was physical pen testing. So let's say we have a pen test team working as a duo, maybe a quad team. Two pen testers or one pen tester goes in with a disguise, with a specific sort of charade that he's using. And The other one is back in the van or back in the office, feeding intel to the physical pen tester, where to go, when to go, maybe even how to go if we go push further with this development.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe less valuable on the initial access side, right? Because to your point,
Yeah.
like the air gap is the air gap. But if you figure out a way in, again, through a physical team has done some kind of a leave behind, I feel like there's now, I mean, tell me what your thoughts are, but I feel like now there's a conduit to exfiltrate data, right? Because you can have that air gap, the private network talk to the internet connected network specifically when like no one's around, and you can be very actively confident that there's no one around because you're not, again, not necessarily like a SOC monitoring system, but like
Hmm.
you can physically see there's no one in the room. Like again, you can be a little bit more noisy and whatnot,
Yeah.
perhaps. Does that kind of jive with what you're thinking?
Yeah, it does too. Like as I said, we're making malware context aware, and this applies to every context: exfiltration, infiltration, lateral movement, and in all cases, when someone is not on their PC, then hey, it's the best time to exfiltrate. And another example of this would be the technology that's being used is all Windows, right? So the code relies on Windows DLLs and WLAN DLL functionality, right? So, of course, it looks stealthy on the surface already, right? Like we're talking if a red teamer is able to hijack a Chrome process and does the exfiltration through that and is using the SNR technology, the SNR technology is like calling the WLAN DLL that's used to collect all the SNR data. So to the EDR, to the SOC engineer, it's just WLAN DLL. It's just a Wi-Fi DLL.
I'll just add an example into this. Just imagine Stuxnet with the capability of understanding how people were moving within the nuclear reactor environment. That would add huge leverage for the operators of Stuxnet if they knew how the researchers within the reactor were moving around the facility. So now that we have this technology, we are not only evading the EDRs or the solutions put into place to protect, we are also evading the whole process of human interactions with the air gap systems just to collect enough information for us to attack in the right time. So we are bringing also the right time into perspective.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, this is very, very Hollywood, right? I think if like Stuxnet's actually a really good example, right? Because if I understand the attacks correctly, like centrifuges spun a little bit faster or a little bit slower than they were supposed to, and an astute human, or if we really want to get into like the sci-fi of artificial intelligence, like a really smart camera system might be able to detect that. But if you know that no one is around, you might be able to be a little bit more cavalier with anything that's physically touching, tampering with like your ICS systems, your elevators and your thermostats and everything. Like you can really, you just have a lot more latitude. It sounds like. Oh, it's interesting. Well, maybe let's talk detection. Because if, like you said, you're already evading essentially by default. I hate the phrase, but like you're living off the land, right? You're just using the APIs that that you get from the wireless drivers,
Mhm.
which makes it innocuous to any like antivirus or EDR that you guys have so far tested. How would one detect this? Is detection like easy if you know what to look for, or is it always going to be extremely hard?
Of course, with everything else in red teaming and blue teaming, if you know what to look for, it's always going to be easy, right? And I decided I want to look for what I made. How would it look on the blue team side? So we went through a process, seeing how it looked with the Elastic and what is it called? What would the logs generated look like? And we went through scenarios. Obviously, if some person injected the SNR into notepad.exe, right? Why is notepad.exe loading the Wi-Fi DLL functionality? That does not make any sense. Obviously, as with everything else, it's how the operator uses it in the context they're in. Me and Salman had a very funny conversation about this, that we are terrified and afraid. We don't want to get into any legal trouble. So there are some built-in IOCs, like indicators of compromise, and there are some ways people can use to make it even more stealthy. But the one thing to look for is the DLL, and not just the DLL, but a combination of factors. The DLL, the samples, the sample size, and the exporting process. These are the three functionalities. So when it comes to sampling, it calls the Wi-Fi DLL many times So you would have to look for a process that's calling the Wi-Fi DLL multiple times in the matter of milliseconds, which is very strange for, let's say, Chrome to call, WLAN DLL 100 times in the same second. It's weird.
So you're still talking about like heuristics there, right? Like,
Yeah.
the piece of that. I think, yeah, it's interesting because this is passive, right? You're not
Yeah.
injecting traffic. You're not
No.
saying send out a probe and let's collect the results. You're just collecting the byproducts of natural wireless emanations from these digital radios.
And to make things even funnier, I had struggled a little bit with collecting the values that Salman needed to calculate the SNR value, right? And I struggled a little bit finding the right API. And lo and behold, MSDN Microsoft documentation has saved me and cursed me once more with a very cursed API called BSS. This API gives you the decibel value accurate to what the hardware is detecting, rather than what the Windows OS smoothens out to show the user who it wants to be coy over, oh, what's this funny number, right? So most of our work has already been done for us by Microsoft.
I know the current implementation, because you mentioned this a few times, is using, like you said, Windows APIs.
Yeah,
but
it's using
there's
Windows
nothing
API.
that you've found in your findings that would not make this portable to mobile technology, IoT technology. Like anything with a radio card should have some kind of monitoring built into the drivers, right?
Yeah, let me break the news here for you that we started developing it on a Linux system. And as you know, Android devices are also Linux, and multiple technologies within the market use Linux, such as routers, for example, to operate. So it was developed mainly for Linux, and then we moved that into Windows.
Got it. I mean, maybe let's close out that part of this part of the conversation, right? So, like, if we know exactly how your sampling works, we can create a heuristic to like look for oversampled API calls that are, like you said, on the order of milliseconds. Are there other just generic, maybe like if someone else like independently tries to recreate this, your technology? And we'll talk about your GitHub page in a minute, but like, what would it, in your mind, be like a reasonable defensive strategy? Like if I'm like you guys mentioned Stuxnet, right? So if I'm Natanz or Esfahan and I've got like, stuff that spins, again, I needed to spin at the right speed. I'm worried, and like, do I just rip out all my radios? Like, what's the
No,
good way to threat model this?
that's like an over exaggeration, of course. I'm not going to tell you to rip out your NIC, out of your PC. You're going to need it, right? Obviously, it's just having good operational security and good threat modeling. Because again, within this context, the SNR technology that we developed is not meant to replace, it is meant to assist. At the end of the day, everything is done by the red team operator. The SNR malware is used to assist the red team operator in knowing when to drop the keylogger or the ransomware or the backdoor, because at the end of the day, he's still dropping these files, right? So it's less about, detecting the SNR. It's more so about removing the root cause itself. Because if these paths are closed off by having a good EDR with very good rules, by having good operational security and teaching employees good, methods of detecting phishing emails and just odd behavior in their Windows OS, that assist goes nowhere. There's no goal to be scored. At the end of the day, it always comes back to the basics, the fundamentals. Just don't be vulnerable and think.
Defense in depth might be the real answer for this.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it seems like sensors everywhere. It just kind of makes life easier if you know how to process, not to make a pun, but to process that signal and noise off those sensors. All right, so let's talk like the pragmatics about this. Like one of the things that was very exciting to me when we did our pre-call prior to taping today was you, if I understand correctly, want this to be more than just the two of you. And so to that end, if I understand correctly, there's a GitHub page. You're actively courting researchers to contribute and do the whole push-pull request type thing. Can we talk a little bit about the mechanics of how people could get involved?
Yeah, of course. Me and Salman had talked about this. We want this technology to be, of course, open source. I, for example, work in a company called JOSA, Jordan Open Source Association. We are big fans of open source and we push for it. We understand that me and Salman can be busy people, and again, we're humans. We have limited knowledge, right? Ego aside, we want this project to live on. We want this project to go to fruition beyond what we were capable of doing. And if someone else is capable of contributing something, of maybe adding a new feature or improving something that's already present, we are open to that. So we have a GitHub page for all the code and everything present. And if anyone, any researcher or anyone would like to, for example, improve on the code, add a new feature that, adds to the SNR technology, either it be, detecting SNR through headsets or whatever Hollywood magic we may find in the future, we're open to it. We are completely open to it. Open a PR, we will look it over and we'll say, hey, we love this. We're adding this and we will give you credit. And that's really it.
Now that you're mentioning headphones, I'm thinking of like every device that has a radio into it, right? And again, that's Bluetooth, that's Wi-Fi, that's like, there's so many devices that are radio enabled, and to basically turn those into human detectors, I think there's, again, like, it doesn't have to be a security context. I don't know if you can really advance this technology, like finally, like technology used for like bettering, humankind. I think like there's just a lot of good stuff here.
Maybe I can break something new to you that we're working on. We are trying also to use like speakers to collect also information as well as microphones in a very, very special way, in a very new way. We are turning like the speakers into microphones, and this is a new thing to be added to the repo. So yeah, we are using other hardware against the system just to evade it.
I think all of this is just fantastic research. Salman, Saif, last call. Where can our audience go to find out more about you, your work, the projects that you guys mentioned today?
We have a GitHub page called Black Hat MEA SNR sample. Our sample is there. If you want to fork it, if you want to create a completely new repo and base it off of the samples that we provided, we are completely open to it. And we will open a completely new GitHub. We will make it official. We make it a full-fledged, fully supported tool. And again, I want the community in on this. I want to see people even raising issues. I take no offense. I see it as a good thing. I see it as engagement. I see it as improvement. I see it as making sure this project lives on for the future, because we have seen many cases of many projects just going archived, issues left unnoticed for many years.
Salman, anything to add in terms of approachability?
Yeah, mainly we're both on LinkedIn active, so also they can DM us there. So if they just want to contact us directly, we are available on LinkedIn. We can maybe exchange information there, and also GitHub is also another good place to add their suggestions or fixes to.
Yeah, rock on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was a great presentation of Black Hat. The research is fascinating. I can't wait to see where this project goes, even just, a couple months from now. So thank you guys for your time.
Of course. Do tell us, how's the Turkish coffee?
It's empty. I'm ready for another one. Honestly,
awesome.
This has been,
Funny enough, I was also drinking it. It was just a bit. I forgot to say that in the middle. We were all drinking it. I completely forgot.
That sounds like somebody with a cup full of like 16 ingredients would say.
Oh yeah. Maybe I put a little bit of Turkish in there and I just forgot. But nonetheless, it was lovely meeting you, Evan, and hopefully we'll see you the next time.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I'll catch you later. Cheers.
See you, man.